Sorry, typo in the other portion that was missed earlier. Okay, so this diagram represents 8 times, okay, sorry guys, every time I change this to a PDF, this is numerous times here that this has been done, it shuffles the X to the side. So what this should read is the diagram represents 8x squared divided by 4x. So the 8x squared being the part at the bottom, 8x squared, and this top part being our 4x. So what does that mean? So when we divide this out, we're going to find what is the other quotient. So when we divide this out, we'll end up finding our answer. So how can we represent this? This is why I like representing division questions in this, because when we could rewrite this question in the format of 8 times x times x all over 4x. So now we can't divide, of course, the variables into the number, but we can divide variables into numbers, variables into the other variables, and we can divide the numbers or coefficients into the other coefficients. So we will find out, of course, how many times does 4 go into 8? 4 goes into 8, we know, 2 times. So that takes care of that. The reason that I've written the number out in this format here and expanded out x squared into x times x is it makes it a little bit easier to see what's happening with the constants. So we've done this before. So if we divide 2 x's by 1x, we know that 1 will cross out, and 1 will cross out. What that leaves us with is 1x in the end. So then if we have 8 divided by 4 equals 2, and we have the 2x's divided by 1x and canceling 1 out, we're left with 2x. So ultimately, if we went over and we wanted to fill in on the diagram, we could draw in that and that. So there's our 2x's. So that'd be our value there. It's not necessary to draw it in right now, but mathematically, if we solve the calculation and solve for that to get that monomial, we end up with that, and we can draw those in there. All right, so the same answer. This is just showing it again with the same miswritten equation that is on the other page. I gotta figure, sorry guys, I'll figure this out for future videos. Okay, so that's how it should have been written, and we end up with 2x. All right, can we write a division statement for the polynomial below? So if we take a look at the polynomial here, we end up with, so knowing that this is c, c, and c. On the side we have negative c, and then we have 1, 2, 3. So the negative's not showing up. So this gives us negative c squared, 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 negative c squared. And then we have c, 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 c. So what do we end up with? In the red big squares, we end up with negative 6c squared. And in the bottom, and you can use x's. So if you wrote negative 6x squared, that's fine. It's transferable. Just pick a variable. And in the bottom, we end up having 9c. I don't want you guys dividing by a polynomial. So on the side here, we have the polynomial. So that's a binomial. So we're not going to divide that by that. what we are going to divide by is the monomial, and that's what we're working on in this section 5.6. Things will get more complicated when you hit grade 10, but for simplicity's sake, this is where we're cutting our teeth, is dividing by monomials. So in this situation then, our polynomial will be, sorry, I'm just going to switch back to black ink. This is a positive 9, so our binomial that will sit on the top will be negative 6c squared plus 9c. And then on the top, we have 3 c's, right? So then that will be divided by 3c. If we look on the side, our binomial value, just so that we can check once we work this through, is going to be negative 2c and being plus 3. So if we divide this out, we'll divide 3 into 6. So 3 into 6 will end up going, switching back to black, goes twice, but being that it's a negative 6, we end up with a negative 2. C into, basically with c times c, 1 will cancel, so we're left with negative 2c. And then if we take 3 into 9, goes 3 times, and then we have a c divided by a c. So we have a variable divided by a variable, and we know that if we divide any number by itself, what we end up with is 1. So really what happens is the c's cancel, and so we're left with 3, because it's the same as saying times 1, but because we don't show that, we'll just take that off right there. So our number as an answer will be 2c plus 3, or negative 2c plus 3. Okay, in this case, x was used as the term, works out the same. This should read, so this equation here should read negative 6x squared plus 9x divided by 3x. So it's the same thing, it's just giving you guys another illustration. All right, so to divide polynomials, the general format is this. First, divide, so step 1, divide the coefficients together. So 2 would go into 2, x would go into x, and the 2 would go into 44, and the x would go into the x there. When you divide the variables together, subtract the exponents of like bases. So we'll talk about that a little bit on the next few pages. That's how we're going to work through this, is by doing each of these equations individually on the next page, and then you do this for each term. All right, so you're going to have, what that means simply is we'll go to that, and that will go to that. Let's take a look at these because they're kind of jumbled on these pages. Again, it seems to be reformatting as I import this into the program here. So let's just move on to